We're just out here with a group called Anonymous for the Voiceless, showing people standard practices in like animal agriculture, fish industry, fur farms, animal testing, just kind of all the ways we use animals.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen footage like this before?
Probably. I think so.
How does it make you feel?
I don't eat meat.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's a vegetarian.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't like torture.
You don't like to watch it? Do you think that if people had to watch footage like this every time they were to purchase these products, the demand would go down?
I would think so.
Yeah.
Right.
I would think so. Yeah.
That's kind of the idea behind this. We're exposing
Yeah.
this footage because the industry wants to keep it hidden.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Because it's not exactly advertising, right?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Do you think it's necessary to do this to animals?
Not at all. I think there's other options
Yeah.
instead of using animals.
Veganism, for example. That is what we're promoting.
Vegan.
What made you go vegetarian?
I just always have been. I don't think I like the texture
Interesting.
of meat since I was a baby.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Have you seen footage of like the dairy and egg industries before?
A little, yeah.
I don't know that I've seen that one.
So we like to expose all types of footage, but in the dairy industry, for example, these animals are forcibly impregnated over and over again, and then they're milked like just to the point of exhaustion, and like a lot of times they develop mastitis, which is like an udder infection. So there's actually pus and blood in milk a lot of times, and they're exploited for like about 4 to 5 years until they can't produce milk anymore because their bodies are just that taxed that they're sent to slaughter. So in a way, like you think of as a vegetarian, like you don't want to kill an animal because, or you don't want to eat meat because you have to kill an animal to consume the meat. But with the dairy industry, all dairy calves get sent to slaughter.
I see.
And they're exploited for longer, so in terms of cruelty, it's like almost extending their suffering.
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of like, ugh. And most people aren't familiar with this because, like I said before, the industry does not want people to know about it. Because,
That's
Good
sad.
to know.
but do you think that, like, for our health, we need to consume animal products?
I don't think so. Like you said, there's always an alternative.
Yeah, there's always
Yeah.
alternatives
Yeah.
to sources.
That's kind of the idea behind veganism, is if it's not necessary to do this, then, like,
Yeah.
why cause suffering
Right.
unnecessarily?
Yeah.
That makes sense.
How do you think this industry, or why do you think it is that we as a society, most of us value like animal lives, like dogs and cats? Why do you think it is that we ignore the suffering of these other species and keep doing this?
That is a good question. I really don't
I
know.
don't know.
Probably habit, tradition.
I guess,
Tradition,
yeah,
some
just
kind of
something you've always done.
connection to cats and dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Have you guys ever heard of the term speciesism?
Speciesism? I think so.
It's kind of like in the way that racism is discriminating against people based on race alone. It's
Right,
kind of an
right, right.
arbitrary factor. Speciesism is discrimination based on species membership alone. So it's not we're not saying that like all species are the same. Like obviously it's logical to value human life over like a fly, right?
Right.
But like in that case, there are other factors that are relevant, like morally relevant, that distinguish those two things.
Yeah.
But so we're not just appealing to species membership.
Yeah.
Okay.
But with a pig and a dog, we treat dogs with like total respect. We take our dogs to the vet when they are sick, like we care about their well-being, and if we see a dog being abused, then like everyone freaks out.
Right.
But then pigs were just like slaughtering by the billions and like completely disregarding.
Right.
So that there's no difference morally. Like it's an arbitrary assignment of value. So that's what speciesism is.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Do you think that in the future we'll kind of look back on this and think it's barbaric, just like we look back at other practices like
I could see that happening.
I could, yeah. But I could also see it going the opposite way. Like eventually it could fade out. I don't know.
Wait, what could
our,
fade out?
Like our traditional, like animal slaughter, like you were saying. But not completely, I wouldn't say.
To get everybody on the same page, like, you know, how are you ever going to do that? I don't know. But
Yeah. Do you think people had the same attitude about other social justice movements, like pre-civil rights movement? Like, do you think people had the attitude that this is the way it is, like, it's always going to be this way? Like, how are you going to convince everyone to, like,
That's true.
end segregation? Like, how are you going to convince everyone to, like, want women to have the right to vote? Like,
yeah, yeah, you're right.
Right.
That's
kinda
I
like
think it could be similar.
it's kind of like
could be.
Yeah.
I just think it's gonna. I think it would take like you figure how long it took to get to there. So with the same thing, like how long is it gonna take for us to get there? But I don't think it's out of reach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is interesting though, because now at this point in history we kind of have like the internet, and we can spread this message like further than
Yeah.
before. Like during the civil rights movement, it was a little bit more difficult to like spread social awareness, I guess.
Right,
In
yeah.
that sense. So, I mean, I can't predict the future, but I want to see a vegan world like by the time I die. That's
Yeah.
just my goal.
I think,
It's a good goal.
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool to see that.
If you guys were to try to go vegan, what do you think the hardest thing would be?
That's a good question.
Probably
I
milk
think
for me.
eggs for me.
Yeah, or eggs.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
this is kind of like a strange question, but if eggs were, say they were recalled for salmonella, and it was
Okay.
like became illegal because they were just a biohazard, what would you eat instead?
Instead of eggs, alternative. I don't know. I'm sure like
I'm sure there's lots of other
yeah.
foods.
There's
you
a
like.
bunch of like just
Yeah.
whatever other options I guess there are to get the same kind of nutrients.
Yeah.
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 What about milk?
You could
probably
always
would
go to
just-
like cashew milk or like
That's
almond
true.
milk and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
I'd probably try that.
I would try that. Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I think.
Or just
I think it'd be hard to get like used to. Yeah, like get used to like all kinds of different foods.
Well, think about it. You use milk for
A lot.
a lot. A lot of different like recipes and ingredients and stuff.
Well, oftentimes like these substitutes, you know, there's soy milk, oat milk, hemp milk, cashew milk, almond milk, rice milk. Like,
Yeah.
my personal favorite is flax milk.
Really?
But there's all these alternatives, right? And given that y'all are obviously opposed to like the horrible cruelty in the dairy industry, why? I guess this is kind of a tough question, but do you think that like the taste, pleasure, or convenience of like eggs and milk justify the violence against animals? So in a sense, we kind of have like an obligation to
Yeah.
choose alternatives that kind of align with our already existent values.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you were saying that, you know, how are we going to convince all the society to make these changes?
Yeah.
Most people, like in their hearts, they're already vegan because they don't like animal cruelty. They don't like
Yeah.
watching footage like this. It makes them upset.
Right.
So it's just like getting people to align their values that they already have with their actions. And once you sort of like dip your toes in and like try all these alternatives, you realize that they're perfectly like tasty and satisfying and nutritious and everything.
Yeah.
And then at that point, like there's no reason to continue.
Right.
It's,
I agree. It'd be something to try for sure.
Yeah. I'd be open to it.
do you think you could do a 22-day challenge?
A 22-day challenge?
Probably.
Probably. It's probably, it's probably easier said than done,
Right.
but I would be open to try it.
Are y'all friends?
Yeah,
Do you hang out?
we're actually from Ohio.
Oh, cool, cool.
Yeah.
Well, we are offering people, we have these cards. First, we recommend people go home. After this conversation, do you think that you would be willing to watch like a documentary or two on the subject?
Yeah.
So we recommend that people watch some of these documentaries. My personal favorite, I really like the Best Speech You'll Ever Hear. It's the first one on YouTube. It's kind of just a very eye-opening speech about the way we treat animals, the way we view animals, and it's like a paradigm shift. And then after you watch a couple of these, your mind is just blown by all the horrendous cruelty. There's a 22-day challenge called vegan22.com. You can sign up for free. I'll give you a card too.
Okay.
And they hook you up with a mentor that can kind of guide you if you have any questions. And yeah.
Cool. Thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it'll be all set. And I would recommend doing it together because
Yeah,
we
it'd be
can
easy
support
to
each
do
other.
with
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
All right. Thank you so
That's
much.
awesome.
Yo, how when me eat them, I wonder when me eat. When me tell them say me nah eat no fish, nah no meat now. How when me eat them, I wonder when me yam. When me tell them say that I'm a vegan man. How when me eat them, I wonder when me eat. When me tell them say me nah eat no fish, nah no meat now.